Straighten my tie.
Good
I've
morning,
got a crooked
everybody.
tie. Thank you. I can't have a crooked
Smarten
tie.
up. Get yourself together here.
Or I could be like Kevin Walling and disrespect our audience so much by not wearing a tie at all. I mean, come on.
People like a little bit of the chest hair. That's what fuels some of the views here across our different platforms. Come on.
Definitely a situation. Good morning and welcome. This is the morning meeting. I appreciate you joining us today. I don't know about you, but I'm still reeling from the loss of Dolly Parton. I mean, honestly, Kevin, I mean, we're going to talk about it a little later on our rundown, but can you think of anyone that transcends everything? I was struck by how many people that I completely disagree with, how many people of different races, different faiths, different everything, but we all have one thing in common. We all love Dolly Parton.
She really was the last uniting figure in our society. In politics, she intentionally stayed out of politics. You didn't know where she stood on the issues, so that way she could be Dolly for everyone, and was such an incredible humanitarian. Obviously, we're going to talk more about her throughout the show. Of course, if you'd like to join in the conversation, if you have memories to share of the great Dolly Parton, please raise your hand. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear what songs you love. We'd love to hear what stories you love of her. We'd love to hear all the great work in terms of how she impacted your life, whether it was through reading, whether it was through visiting Dollywood, what have you. She is. It's hard to believe that she's gone.
Yeah. You'd think she'd always be with you. And by the way, if you're a member of the military and you served overseas and she came and performed, she did a lot of USO work for our troops, and we'd love to hear those stories too. So raise your hand, be a part of our conversations like no other, only here on the Two-Way app. And if you're watching on YouTube or X or any of our other platforms, go to twoway.tv, sign up, register, and then you can be a part of our conversation every single day too. All right, we're going to get to the day book here and what the agenda is for our fearless leaders in Washington, D.C. in just a moment. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at Dose, because a lot of us are thinking more seriously about our health and our lifestyle these days. Cholesterol health is one of those things that can become part of that conversation, and it vexes a lot of people, cholesterol. I think a lot of people want to feel like they have some say in how they take care of themselves. When traditional healthcare options come up, some people are hesitant about committing to something they may not be comfortable taking long term. A lot of the solutions for cholesterol, they fall into that category. And it's part of why I think there's growing interest in a more gentle alternative with ingredients people recognize, things like CoQ10, ginger, pomegranate, amla. One of those options is Dose for Cholesterol. Dose for Cholesterol is a clinically backed cholesterol support supplement. It targets triglycerides, LDL, HDL, and total cholesterol levels. And what I like most about it is this concept that it's really about making healthy habits easier to maintain. Dose is great. There's no powders. There's no capsules. It's just a daily 2-ounce liquid shot that tastes like mango, and it can easily be a part of your routine. So here's how you get a great deal on Dose. You go to dosedaily.co morning, dosedaily.co/morning, or enter morning at checkout. You're going to get 35% off your first month of subscription for Dose for Cholesterol. That's for all new customers. dosedaily.co/morning. Or just enter morning at checkout over at dosedaily.co. Thank you for that.
One of these days, we're going to get through that beautifully with a clean read. I'm counting on
why.
you.
I just get tripped up on it.
It's not easy. The Dose Daily would mess me up too.
Dose Daily, Dose Daily.
I took my shot this morning, even though I'm on the road, and it's great. And to your point, it has all those ingredients listed right out on the side of the bottle, so you know exactly what you're getting with it. It's great.
That's right. Full transparency, all natural stuff. All right, to the day book. Today at the White House, the in-town pool, TV correspondent crew is CBS. Secondary TV correspondent is Newsmax. Photos are the same. Print is The Atlantic. I thought Trump hated The Atlantic. I thought he, violated freedom of the press by, I guess Atlantic has a seat at the table too.
They snuck back in there.
Politico. Radio is ABC. Oh, does ABC still have a radio? Oh, good for them. And then
CBS canceled theirs. ABC, yes, I think, still does, but CBS is the one that,
and so
sadly,
Salem Radio. Salem Radio also has a network.
Still holding strong.
Envoy Media is the new media. Do you know who Envoy Media is?
I don't. Yeah.
Neither do I. And I
Sounds
hate
like
myself for not
sounds
knowing.
like an in-flight magazine, potentially.
Something tells me that
For American
somebody
Airlines.
will let us know who Envoy Media is as soon as possible. All right. 8 a.m., the president, once again, is having executive time closed press. Good morning, Mr. President.
Good morning.
9 a.m. Oh, actually, that's right now. All right. So maybe he's not watching us this one time.
It's in the background. It's in the background.
He's live right now on the Glenn Beck program nationwide on the Premier Radio Network from iHeart. Then at 11 o'clock, President has an intelligence briefing. Now, that's interesting. Usually his intelligence briefing isn't part of the daily rundown. I wonder why they deliberately put it on the schedule today. This, by the way, on the heels of, you saw the news that CIA Director Ratcliffe flew to Moscow on Tuesday?
Yeah, being very tight-lipped. Not a lot of details about that, but I think he took off yesterday. And I think the Russian said he's not meeting with Putin, but we really don't know what he's doing over there. Maybe more to tell, when he's back on solid ground over here.
By the way, let me just tell you, when the director of the CIA flies to Moscow, if they don't want everyone to know about it, you won't know about it. The fact that we know about this is deliberate, and it is very interesting, I think. 2 p.m., President has signing time, closed press. 3 p.m., policy meeting, closed press. And 4 p.m., he will be participating in a print interview. Oh, it's Maggie Haberman, I bet. In the Oval Office. That is also closed press. J.D. Vance, no known events today. House and Senate continue to be on vacation. Recessed in Washington, D.C. and doing constituent work back in their home districts. They're on vacation.
I think you had it right. The only man really working, and we're going to talk about the midterms. First off, seemingly, is the speaker, who, yes, God love him, the man gets no breaks. He's on a 30-day tour. I think he's now going down through South Texas. You spent some time with him not too long ago in the Capitol. Yep. Obviously, he's very bullish on the chances of Republicans holding that position, holding the House, continuing on his speakership. But my God, that man is going all over.
Well, let me tell you, he will be appearing with Republican candidates Carlos de la Cruz in the 35th District, Monica de la Cruz, I think no relation, in the 15th, and Tana Tijerina in the 28th, and Eric Flores in the 34th. That's all that South Texas swing there.
I let you do all the Spanish pronunciations there.
Claro.
Exactly.
Una culebra grande está mis pantalones. For people who speak Spanish, they know that I just said something kind of naughty. Speaker Johnson is correct. Speaker Johnson is working tirelessly because you know what? And here's the thing: people need to know this. If it isn't already obvious, because everybody thinks, oh, Hakeem Jeffries is the minority leader. I don't think there is a starker difference in Washington, D.C. or in government anywhere. The difference between being Speaker of the House and everything that goes along with being Speaker of the House, and then immediately being minority leader, it is night and day. It is not.
You go from government planes and in the line of the presidential succession to wearing big Yankees hats and filming yourself outside of buildings in the Bronx.
Exactly. Panhandling there in a public housing project like Hakeem Jeffries. No, and it's not just that. It's not just the perks that go along with the office, but also the influence, the importance, the ability to drive an agenda instead of just, sitting there and playing defense the entire time. And listen, Republicans are very good at being in the minority. We're really good at sniping from the sidelines. But yes, I have no doubt that Speaker Johnson knows what's at stake here, and that's why he's working so tirelessly. Also,
and of course, I was just going to say, complicating some of his efforts too. The president's not doing him a lot of favors. There's an element 106, Politico again doubling back about Trump scoffing about affordability issues, which we know is going to be a key issue. The president's latest bid to lower beef prices is the last-ditch effort to ease consumer strain in the grocery store, a key driver of negative sentiment. Angering some farm state Republicans. So still, again, he was in Myrtle Beach last Friday campaigning with Darline Graham, saying she is the affordability expert and will work on prices, but certainly causing the president some headaches in terms of the messaging, whether affordability is an issue or it's not.
Did we get the Q2 GDP numbers on durable goods, personal income, consumer spending? Did we get those reports, and do we have them? Because
we did out this morning.
I was too busy talking to Larry Gatlin about Dolly
I
Parton.
know, which I want to hear all about too. Futures are essentially flat to slightly lower, with investors awaiting the PCE inflation report. I think we have that already out this morning, and Rick Santelli talking about that on Squawk Box. Can we play that real quick? That's 126 about
personal income, durable
rates.
goods, GDP, second time around the block on second quarter, and here we are at 8:30 Eastern, and the news is hitting the wires.
You can adjust your volume down if you need to, ladies and gentlemen.
Remains at 1.5, and if we look at consumption, it improves from 3.2 to 3.4, the best pace since the third quarter of 25. If we look at the price index, 6.4, unfortunately, it moved up 0.2 from 6.2. 6.4 would be the warmest going back to the high water mark of the second quarter of June 22, and that was 9.3. Now, if we look at core PCE, a same scenario, gets warmer. 3.6 versus 3.4.
That's the key thing, I think, for Fed watchers.
Would be the warmest.
And we can close out of that because I think it goes on for a little bit.
That's not
so. Everybody's awake now.
Right, exactly. Rick will do that. It's good news in terms of people purchasing power and people buying things. The bad news is they're spending a lot more when they're buying things, as the inflation has ticked up a bit, as you just heard it, since it was its worst in 2022 under President Biden. Not great news. Not great news if you're
and again, a lot of Fed watchers with I think the Kevin Warsh, the Fed chairman, is headed to Jackson Hole this week. A lot of eyes on that. I think is his first conference, and there'll be some telegraphing, I think, coming out of that in terms of the direction of some of the financial policy heading forward in the country. So some interesting numbers, all of course with the background of the midterms now 69 days out. These are some of the key things that can affect our politics, certainly out of the control of the president, out of the control of Democrats too, in terms of how the economy will impact voters heading now into the final stretch.
All right, that's a wrap of the day book. Anything hit you square between the eyes that you want to talk about? It's good news for you. You don't just have to flame us in the comments section or in the chat, where we love to have your smack since Mark's not here.
A little bit of smack,
But you can also come in and join us by raising your hand and being part of our community and part of the programming, especially new people. If you've never raised your hand before, please do so. And if you've never joined us before and you're just, lurking over there on the platforms that you're watching, please come to twoway.tv, sign up, and be a part of our conversation. All right. So what's on the agenda today, Kevin?
So big night. Of course, we've been talking a lot about South Carolina. The results are in. Darline Graham cruises to her victory last night, about a 5-point margin in that 2-week runoff. The president obviously investing heavily in that race, doing multiple telephone town hall rallies for her, obviously coming to Myrtle Beach. It made the difference in Horry County, which is Russell Fry territory, kind of Myrtle Beach area. She ran up the numbers there. Ralph Norman, not Northam, was very strong in his district in Greenville and the northern parts of the state. And she also ran up the numbers in the Low Country, where Charleston, Beaufort counties, where Mark Sanford obviously represented in Congress and had some support there. So she will face Annie Andrews. Let's do a quick, obviously you've got the headlines there in terms of her victory. Let's duck into a little bit of her speech last night, which is 110, her victory speech from the runoff race.
I want to thank the good Lord who got us through these past few weeks and gave me and my family the strength to keep going. I continue to miss Lindsay every day, and there is still a big hole in my heart. But I know he's looking down right now, very proud of everyone in this room. I want to thank President Trump for all of his support and his endorsement. Our victory would not have been possible without you, and we are truly grateful. Those who are not aware, you need to know that my Democratic opponent, Dr. Annie Andrews, is the most radical liberal ever nominated for a statewide office by the South Carolina Democratic Party. Her views are those of Bernie Sanders and AOC. If you liked Kamala Harris for president, you're going to love Dr. Annie Andrews.
In our defense, we've nominated some pretty far out lefty liberals statewide in South Carolina. I don't think that's accurate. But of course, Dr. Annie Andrews, who was a guest with Mark on Next Up a few weeks ago, certainly encourage everyone to listen to that conversation. It was a really good back and forth. She's up with a $500,000 buy. She's raised about $11 million so far. Has got $4 million cash on hand. She's up with her first ad really of the general election season. That's 127. Can we play that?
When I put on this coat, I carry the weight of every patient's trust. We should expect the same from our leaders. I'm Dr. Annie Andrews. I'm a mom to 3 kids and a pediatrician. I'm running for Senate to lower healthcare costs, go after insurance companies ripping us off, and I'll work with Republicans to cut taxes and keep your family safe. I approve this message because my life's work has been about helping people. You deserve a senator who does the same.
So certainly off to the races, to camera, framing the general election battle, talking about working with Republicans, which is a message as a Democrat that you need, certainly in a tough state like South Carolina. Larry, are we just grasping at straws here as the Democrats? The president won the state by 18 points, I think, last go round in terms of how difficult South Carolina is. A lot of hopes are on Annie Andrews here. If it's a blue wave, potentially, but it's still an uphill battle, certainly.
Yeah, I want to wait a day or two and see. I listen, I think she had a great message last night. She was reading her message. I don't feel like it's part of Darline Graham's DNA yet, which is understandable.
That's a good point.
She's only been a politician for 6 weeks now. So it doesn't come naturally to everybody. But the message that she had last night, as we just showed you, is absolutely the right message. You may have nominated more liberal Democrats to run for this seat in the past, but it hasn't been in years where the DSA and the Bernie Sanders wing of your party are so dominant, and that's what Republicans need to do. So I think it's too early to say whether you move this into from solid Republican to lean Republican, or maybe even toss up. I doubt that Chuck Schumer's enterprise is going to want to spend much money in South Carolina. It's a real long shot. If she can raise money, Dr. Andrews there, great, good for her. She might have a slugger's chance, but otherwise, I think that the Graham family will prevail.
And again, we know money isn't everything. Jamie Harrison, God love him, and I do, former chairman of the DNC, raised $120+ million and ran against Lindsey the last go round, Senator Graham the last go round, and came up short by double digits. So it's certainly a tough state for Democrats. Another tough state for Democrats, of course, is 108, element 108, talking about the Oklahoma runoff in that election where the president went 2 for 2. So Senator Graham and his choice for the governorship there in Oklahoma. Larry, thoughts on that? Obviously, it was a close race. Obviously, about a point or so.
Yeah, a much closer race. And Oklahoma is one of those states where some say it's the reddest state in the country. I think West Virginia might be redder, but it is dominated by the Republican Party. But because of that, a lot of people who aren't necessarily super duper conservative Republicans end up being Republicans because that's the only way you can win a race in Oklahoma. And so there are a lot of infights going on within the Republican Party in Oklahoma. But yes, the president prevailed here. And I think in this case, he was the X factor that helped Mike across the finish line there. And it should be a safe seat for Republicans in the governorship there.
And I miss this. I'd love to go back to South Carolina real quick, home state privilege here, and see the poly market on that, because now it is a race. And I want to see now, wow. Okay, so this is what traders are thinking about this. 88% Republican that it will stay with Senator Graham. Larry, again, aligning likely with our conversation here in terms of what traders are thinking on this.
Yeah. By the way, here's a little hidden Easter egg nugget of info trivia for everybody. Your spouse is from South Carolina. My spouse is from Oklahoma. So we're both connected through marriage to the two races we're discussing today.
Meredith and Alex, I know Alex watches all the time. If you're on the platform, please raise your hand. We'd love to hear your perspectives, Alex Stroman, on your home state runoff election last night.
By the way, Meredith has a rule in the house that she never watches anything I do or listens to everything that I do. So she was a big fan of the morning meeting when there was a prior cast here as the co-host. But you've lost one viewer, Mark, because you brought me on.
She's like my mom and dad. They came into the first Little League game and then wrote it off.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much it. She was there for opening night. Nothing since.
And because Mark is on assignment, we still have to talk about one of his favorite topics, and that is obviously the Michigan Senate race. We'll be really brief on this because I want to spend as much time as we can.
That's one of my favorite topics
on
too.
Dolly. I know it's one of your favorite topics too. But a little bit of a fallout, certainly from that Jesse Waters conversation that we talked about. Let's play 107. Jesse Waters talking about a brief snippet, talking about his interview the previous night with
deep abiding love for Dr. Abdul. Yes.
I like Abdul. I probably shouldn't like him, but I do. I think he'd be a terrible senator, and he's a little bit of a lunatic, but at least he's not your typical stiff. Hakeem talked to Kushner because he wanted to help the country. Abdul talked to me because he wanted to help Michigan and himself. And we all learned something, that I'm circumcised.
There you have it. And then, of course, Mike Rogers cut an ad with that you flagged, and that's 125. Let's watch that, please.
Look, I'm not going to defend the Green New Deal. I talk about the Green New Deal. The Green New Deal. The Green New Deal. It's extremely powerful and ought to be harnessed and invested in.
It is a critical framework for thinking about how to solve climate change, infrastructure, and racism at the same time.
If we want to solve the real challenge of economic instability, then the Green New Deal does that. Look, I'm not going to defend the Green New Deal.
The Green New Deal posits that if we're serious about taking on climate change, we need to rethink our economy around building green infrastructure.
A Green New Deal that helps us address climate change, as I think is critical. And I want you to think about what the Green New Deal is. It is an interlocking system of solutions to an interlocking system of problems. Making Detroit the engine of the Green New Deal, to me, recognizes that as Detroit goes, America goes.
Dude.
Con man. There you go. Grimacing.
Con man is the new tagline that the Rogers campaign employed yesterday. They rolled it out after that Jesse Waters. And I told everybody yesterday, Abdul al-Sayed had a very high bar on this interview. He had to be great the entire time. All Mike Rogers or Republicans needed was maybe 30 seconds. I think they got a lot more than 30 seconds, but that's a great example of it. That one line becomes an entire ad. And Kevin, I'm a big fan of ads that utilize your opponent's own words against them, which was that entire thing. And Green New Deal, I think, is pretty unpopular in Motor City. So I think that's a very strong ad. So far, the Rogers campaign's doing pretty good stuff.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I'll concede the point that anytime you can use your opponent's words against them in a clip, I think is effective, even if they're taken out of context, which a lot of those ads are on both sides. When you just clip a little bit of, we saw it previously where Abdul said, "I'm dangerous if you support corporate money in politics. I'm dangerous if you're the establishment." Just clipping "I'm dangerous," is a little bit of political shadow boxing there, certainly.
I think this ad, though, especially and the employment of that tag word "con man," it works on two levels. First of all, it shows you what he really believes about the Green New Deal, but it also tells voters, don't believe what he tells you right now. He's running in the general. He's going to pretend he doesn't have all of these positions, that we have this long laundry list of evidence to show that this is what he really believes. But right now, he's going to tell you this because he wants your vote. That's very effective, too, I think, for voters who are, sort of just getting to know this guy, Mike Rogers' team trying to define him that way.
Well, and to your point, now that we're in the general election, I think that, Massachusetts votes on the 1st. That's the last, I think, of the primaries. It's really late in the cycle. Now it's a race to define your opponent. I'm in Georgia right now. I was in Atlanta, gave a speech yesterday in town, and it's all pro-Ossoff, direct-to-camera ads, and a lot of Jackson ads running for governor down here because, again, attacking Keisha Lance Bottoms because, again, it's now a race to define your opponent, both in terms of defining what you're putting out there in the world, but then also, to your point, defining your opponent.
Well, and he's got so much money in his coffers to be able to run, a self-made multi-gajillionaire. And that's why some people, even though, it looks like Ossoff is going to coast to victory, think that Collins is going to benefit from him being at the top of the ticket. But I'd look for Georgia at this point to split their vote, right?
And they have a history of that. That would be extraordinary, too, if you think about it. If Ossoff wins by 8 points or so and Jackson wins by 5 points. Think of this,
Yeah.
the split there of a 13, 15-point swing, where folks are just ticket splitting. We could see that dynamic play out in a lot of states like Maine, potentially like Michigan too, where Jocelyn Benson is running really strong for governor in that state as the Democratic nominee against John James, and potentially could win by 5-6 points, and Abdul potentially could lose by 5-6 points. Again, the nature of ticket splitting, and your point at the outset 100 days ago, candidate quality matters. And I actually think that's a good thing for this country, that people aren't just blindly, vote, even though I want them to blindly vote Democratic. I think it's a good thing when they evaluate candidates for themselves, and it's not just a sure bet.
Do we, well, I guess we have to talk about Mark's other favorite topic, right?
Iran. If that's the case, yeah. There's some news, of course. 113, please. Some reporting on Secretary of State Marco Rubio assuring allies that the focus is now on the economic sanctions that Secretary Bessent rolled out on Monday, and that we're likely not going to look towards any kind of kinetic activity. I don't know, Larry, your thoughts on, if we're signaling that, what message does that send to Tehran and the leadership there? Do they take advantage, as they always do, of the situation and provoke us in some way? Likely militarily, that's their only option. Certainly with regards to the Strait and with regards to, our allies in the area in terms of their attacks.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the threat of a major combat operation has always sort of been the stick part of the carrot and stick to try to get them to the negotiating table. Now that the MOU is expired and it didn't lead to anything, the idea of getting a negotiated peace and a negotiated deal with them is off the table. So at this point, the strategy from the White House seems to be this is an economic war now. That's why we saw Secretary Bessent call it economic D-Day. But I think it's all about China at this point. Honestly, Iran doesn't hold the cards. China holds the cards. And so it's going to be very interesting. And this is now going to be a pretty hard diplomatic effort. And one never knows what could happen between now and that summit in September, if we could see actually something develop and China step up and say, yeah, okay, fine.
China, especially to a littler extent, Russia and India. But China is the linchpin on all this. I was reading John Ellis this morning, and the Chinese have indicated, okay, you put this out there, that's very nice. We're going to protect our own interests, and we're not going along with any of your sanctions. To the point where there's cartoons running in their publications about these sanctions that the West is levying against Iran. I doubt we're going to see any movement really there.
Well, and India is an economic rival of China's. They're not going to unilaterally disarm. As good an ally as they are to us, and they are in most respects, they're not going to sign up for all these sanctions and basically shoot themselves in the foot in their economic competition with China. So it's got to be all or nothing. But we'll see. This will be a real test of the president and his diplomatic team. They seem to think that they'll be able to do. I was struck, though, by Treasury Secretary Bessent refusing to commit as to how hard they're going to press this with China in particular. They're the only ones that matter.
And of course, the linchpin to a lot of this is the Strait of Hormuz. And there was reporting, obviously, of the Pakistanis and the Omanis meeting again, specifically about the Strait. The field marshal straight out of central casting is coordinating with the White House. Let's look at the poly market on the Strait of Hormuz. That's 115 and see what traders are thinking on that. Whether it will be the Strait of Hormuz traffic returns to normal by September 30th, my mom's birthday. That's that 11%. Yes, you've seen a little bit of a up and down on that on the chart there. Larry, does that square with your thinking? Do you think it's not as likely that we will see regular traffic open at that point?
Listen, I guess it depends on who you believe and who you listen to. The president put out on Truth Social again yesterday that the Navy's informed him that all the mines have been removed and are detonated from within the waters of the Strait. Iran's been notified any ship or boat placing new mines will be immediately and systematically destroyed. And so, I mean, the U.S. government, via our commander-in-chief and and our head of state, the president, is communicating to the world that the Strait is open for business and there's no danger to cross the Strait. And we have seen an uptick in traffic crossing through the Strait. And as you can see from that element there at CNBC, oil fell quite a bit yesterday. I think 2.2%. It dropped down into the mid to high 80s. So maybe we've solved the Strait problem at this point. And now that the mines are gone, it's a lot harder to place mines without being detected, especially if you don't have a navy. And Iran no longer has a navy. So, maybe I'll be optimistic here and think that the problem of the Strait has been resolved.
Don't trust but verify is my thinking with all this.
Well, listen,
with the old Reagan adage.
Global, and another old adage is global commodity markets transcend politics. And if they're confident that oil is oil is trading lower because of their confidence, that tells me something, because they're not going to buy propaganda. They're just going to trade based on what they think is actually happening in the sea over there in the Strait. So let's see. But as I've always said, Iran sadly still has, a vote in all of this. And if they decide to act like the lunatics that they are and lash out and attack our allies or us, then it's a whole new game.
The proof is in what? Is it the pudding?
No, the devil is in the pudding.
Exactly right. Exactly. And they are the devil. But I'd love to spend some time now. We've got half the show. And again, if you want to talk about Iran, we'd love to have you come on. If you want to talk about the election results last night, of course. But let's really talk about an American icon, Dolly Parton. I know the wall-to-wall coverage since the announcement by her nephew and head of security in a really lovely tribute video. It's what Dolly asked for in terms of planning the announcement of her death. Went out yesterday. I called Alex, who is the biggest Dolly Parton fan I know, and who's in mourning and has been listening to her music. I listened to a lot of her music on the drive to Atlanta yesterday, and I was really touched by not just the outpouring from Americans, and we see some of the footage of her early on. But we saw the royal family put out this tweet on 116 with the Queen's Guard right there. I mean, how incredible is that?
Let's go.
Working 9 to 5. Love it.
Is there
so incredible?
Kevin, is there any truth to the rumor that they first thought that they were going to play Jolene, but given the subject matter, King Charles and Camilla decided,
hey now.
Ixnay on this song about the other woman. Let's not do that.
Yeah, well, having spent some time with them not too long ago, I will defend both their Majesty's great honor with that little swipe.
I'm teasing, of course. I can't remember the Royal Guard doing that ever since after 9/11. Remember, I believe they played "God Bless America" or the
exactly right, and that was so out of custom. And obviously, her late Majesty, the Queen, had that as a tribute in solidarity with us. And again, that was just such a beautiful tribute. Obviously, the president lowering the flags to half-staff, rightly honoring her legacy. He put out this lovely tweet. Very sad to report that Dolly Parton, one of the greatest country singers and far beyond ever, has just passed away. This is a true loss for millions of people. There has never been anyone like her and never will. In her honor, I'm lowering the American flag throughout the United States for a 1-week period beginning tonight at 6 p.m. Rest in peace, Dolly. The world loves you. President Donald J. Trump. And you had messages from across the political spectrum. And that, Larry, this is how you started the show, that she really united everybody. This is a message from Jimmy Carter's library. Today we remember an American original, wonderful friend, Dolly. We will always love you. Our thoughts are with the Parton family and with all those who loved her. You had messages from Bill Clinton, 121, from George Bush, from Barack Obama. Bill Clinton says Dolly Parton was one of a kind. Laura and I, along with thousands of her fans, Bill Clinton, Dolly Parton was one of a kind, a great songwriter and performer who told the stories of everyday Americans honestly, with humility and heart. And again, talking about her hardscrabble upraising, born in a one-room shack in Tennessee. Her parents didn't have the money to pay for the doctor to give birth to her, so I think they gave them foodstuffs in order to cover the costs of birthing her. and just a true American original that we will all miss greatly. Barack Obama's statement there. It's hard to imagine many people having a bigger impact than Dolly Parton. Larry, and I know you've on the radio show had a number of people that collaborated with her, that knew her, that spent time with her, and love to hear your thoughts on her too.
We did. In fact, I took calls all morning long. It's somebody early on in my career, and a lot of my mentors told me that you got to talk about what everybody's talking about. And it was really clear this morning as we were putting together our rundown with all the stuff going on in news and politics. But for my 3-hour talk radio show, you can't fight the tide. People want to talk about Dolly, so we did. We took calls all morning. We also had Lee Greenwood and Larry Gatlin come on. We had Mary Catherine Ham come on also. She was born in North Carolina, went to school in Georgia, and she's of that era. You know, anyone who grew up in the 80s, they're older millennials or Gen X. Dolly was a big part of your life across all media.
I think 9 to 5 was 1980, 81 maybe, early
79 or 80.
Okay,
Yeah, just incredible. And I kept getting vexed by this one question was, what was it about her? What secret sauce did she have where everybody claimed her as our own, right? Across the board. And I think something that kept coming out, and especially talking to Larry Gatlin and Lee Greenwood, was that she exuded this humility, as President Clinton just said there, this humble gratitude that every single day that she lived this completely surreal life, as a very, very wealthy. People have to understand just how wealthy she was. She wasn't just a singer. You know, if you understand the royalty business, when you're a songwriter, you know, you write that one song, "I Will Always Love You," that she wrote, you know, early in her career, and then she sang it in Bessel House in Texas, and then Whitney Houston covered it. The second Whitney Houston covers that song for you, you're done. You don't have to work again. That's just one song. You think about all the other songs that she did, that she wrote. So she really was beyond successful, and yet she always had gratitude for where she was, and she always stayed where she was there in East Tennessee. She always had her roots back there with her husband, Carl, who you never really heard a whole lot about, but she would talk about him sometimes. They seemed to have a rock-solid relationship, and she didn't forget who she was, and she was grateful for it every day. I think, from my perspective, that a lot of that is because of her deep, abiding faith in her Savior, Jesus Christ, that she would talk about whenever she had the opportunity. And she just represented the best of what this country has to offer. And when you talk about those humble beginnings and what she was able to achieve, not to get political, because she wouldn't get political, but sometimes you can demonstrate American politics without actually saying a thing. You look at her life and what she represented, the real American dream, that if you work hard and you actually keep your morality about you and keep your focus on the ethics and the opportunities that our country has to offer, you can succeed. Not everyone's going to succeed as much as Dolly Parton, but Dolly's life, her legacy, and what she's able to do actually is in stark contrast to people who trash this country, say that our country's broken, and say that we need to radically transform what we do here to accommodate the latest idea of Marxism. Again, not to get political, but to me, I hear Dolly's story and I think, this is the perfect antidote to those who are pushing the DSA agenda.
Well, okay. A little political thing there, but again, she's reunited with her husband of 60 years, Carl, who's behind the scenes kind of player. She was also, to your point, Larry, a brilliant businesswoman, obviously with Dollywood, and an incredible humanitarian. And she kept all of her songbook, right? So she didn't license it out. Elvis came to her and wanted "I Will Always Love You," and she said no. She agreed to Whitney Houston, obviously doing that for The Bodyguard. Great movie in terms of covering it, and all the royalties she got for that, she turned back over to Black communities in Tennessee. All the royalties from Whitney's, exactly. 300 million books with her imagination library that young people, and in tribute to her father who never learned how to read. That was a great and lasting gift that so many young people learned to read because of Dolly. And again, just the authentic nature. There's so many people in this country, especially the stars that we hold up, that don't know who they are, don't know where they came from. She had that authentic grace, that spiritual grace that transcends everything. And she will be sorely sorely missed, certainly. And I
Do
know
you
I'll
have
be
a-
listening to her all day. And you know, so many great stories too. Again, the idea that she wrote "I Will Always Love You" on the same day that she wrote Jolene. You go back in history, the greatest single day of American songwriting was that day. I love her appearances on Johnny Carson. You know, creating songs for Johnny and crediting Johnny for helping raise awareness about her and her career and giving her a platform. The grace that she exuded, the humbleness, the gratitude, not taking anything for granted. I think she woke up every morning surprised as anyone that she was Dolly Parton with that level of success, and that never left her spirit because she always had that humble nature. And that is such a far cry from pop culture right now in terms of the you know, what we celebrate and what we hold up, and just American culture in general. And she will be sorely missed.
Everyone's already going to know the answer to the question, but it's still worth asking. What did Queen Latifah, Lizzo, Jose Feliciano, Motley Crue, and Kermit the Frog all have in common? And they all collaborated with Dolly Parton. That struck me more than anything else, that everyone wanted to perform with her. Everyone wanted to collaborate with her. Everyone wanted to sing with her. And her duets, I mean, as astounding as she was as a solo artist, Kevin, I love her duets because you immediately distinctively hear her voice. You know that it's her, yet at the same time, she perfectly blends with whomever she's singing with. That is a very rare talent, to be able to have your distinct voice and at the same time blend with Kenny Rogers or with Kermit the Frog. You know, that's incredible.
And on that note, let's. This is a surprise for Larry. We're going to play "Islands in the Stream," and you're going to be Kenny, and I'm going to be Dolly right now.
Oh,
Can we cue that up, team?
I love it.
Just kidding.
It's good that you're Dolly. That's probably best.
Gladly, I'll be Dolly. But of course, if we'd love to hear from all of you, reflections on Dolly, especially, or anything else that we've talked about. Please raise your hand. I love the one story she tells about going into a gay bar, and there was a Dolly Parton lookalike competition, and all these drag queens were out there. They didn't really know it was her, and she lost the Dolly Parton lookalike contest because all these drag queens had gone so over the top, and she loved to be over the top in her outfits and her makeup. She talked about how expensive it is to look that cheap. Johnny Carson willing to give up a year's salary to take a peek under the hood, as he once said, with her next to him at the desk for the Tonight Show. Just an American original.
Yeah. By the way, that drag queen strike. Once again, can we keep men out of women's sports and out of Dolly Parton competitions? Okay.
No, because they'll win. No, they'll win.
Yeah, the Johnny Carson stuff. I mean, she was asked one time famously, because she was so popular, have you ever thought about running for office? And you know, that's why people who get popular, especially in the entertainment field, they're often asked about this. Hey, do you want to run for office? And there's something about it. No matter how famous you are and rich you are as an actor or a singer, there's that little bug. It's like, oh, you can be so influential, you can be powerful, you can actually, be elected office. She never even considered it, but her famous answer was, I think we've already had enough big boobs in the White House, right? So you don't need me there, too.
Hey, be careful with that. We don't need callbacks to you talk about big fake plastic,
fake
what
boobs.
have you.
Yes. Not that we're referring to Kristi Noem's ex-husband or anything. Yes,
exactly. Well, we want to hear from the community, so I'd love to bring our pop culture expert and correspondent, Haley, who hopefully has promised not to ask about the 2,000-year history of 6,000-year history of Middle East issues with 1 minute to spare and the effects of Syria.
Luck has it that's my question, guys. But no, I will definitely. I mean, I wasn't raised on Dolly Parton, that's for sure. But I respect the woman more than probably any celebrity around. And her story, her outlook, her true, what I think is like independentness, kind of really inspired me. And especially reading about her story, reading about all the things that she's done for the world, for people, for her community. I think that she is one, you said it best, Kevin, like the last true unification source in this country. And we lost that. And it's going to be really, really sad to try and find someone who can, bring both sides together. I don't think there's anyone alive who could have done it better than her.
Yeah,
who had done it better than her.
I agree, Haley. And you write at your new Substack, which everyone should subscribe to, by the way. You write about that intersection of pop culture and politics. And Andrew Breitbart, my mentor, always used to say that politics was downstream from culture. And so she did, in her own way, influence our political conversation every day, but without ever overtly doing so. She just was who she was, and and as somebody was saying, why did she transcend so much? And I put it down this way: her entire philosophy can be boiled down to don't be a jerk to people. Mm-hmm. Just don't be a dick, right?
Yeah.
And as a Christian, it's sort of, here's what she stood for: love God and love your neighbor. That should sound familiar to any Christian out there.
Regardless of what her political leanings were, nobody cared. And I am convinced that she lived in a world where she was truly bipartisan, where she had friends from both sides of the aisle, and, it didn't matter. And I just feel like we should emulate Dolly Parton from here on out.
Which, Kevin, she was a normie, because normal people don't get obsessed with politics and don't judge each other based on, who they register to vote for. That's how it used to be, Kevin.
It says two guys that are obsessed with politics that co-host a morning show that talk about it. We aren't the normie ones, but Haley, thank you so much.
And again, what we do.
Think about, doing great,
I love what we do. I love what we do. But think about this, beautiful statement from Jane Fonda. Who could unite Jane Fonda and Donald Trump, right? To praise you
my point.
After your passing. It's pretty extraordinary. Thank you, Haley.
Dakota, for that matter. Thank you.
Exactly.
Haley. Well said to you. Thank you.
Colleen, please join us. I would love to hear your thoughts on Dolly and anything else too. Welcome.
About healthcare, but I will comment on Dolly because I did grow up. I remember seeing 9 to 5. I was a young girl, and that was an inspirational movie for young women. It was like, wow.
It was a feminist movie. It was a wonderful, women-powered movie.
Yes, exactly. And it kind of opened a world for people. And I think her legacy is, like you said, I hope she's not the last bipartisan inspiration for the country, because we need more of that, obviously. But her grit, her spunk, she was just original American and someone to be so proud of. But anyway,
that moment when she finally goes after Dabney Coleman for all the leering and all of the sexual stuff going on in the office, and she says, "Listen, I haven't said anything because I'm too polite to do so, but I got a shotgun in my car, and the next thing you do, I'll turn you from a rooster to a hen with one shot." It's like, that's my kind of feminist. Thank you. That's what we need.
Yeah, she was spunky, and she was, a heroine for young women, I think. So, but I was just going to briefly talk about healthcare, if I could, because you brought up Annie Andrews, and I know, Larry, that I lived in Europe for a long time, so I know the benefits of universal healthcare. But I also know the arguments here from my Republican friends, because I'm bipartisan also, against it. But the facts of the matter are that, we spend $14,000 per person in the United States on healthcare, and Europeans on average spend $6,000. They live longer, less cancer, less diabetes, big focus on preventive care, and the most important thing I absorbed when I lived there is peace of mind. It's like you don't worry about healthcare, and you don't worry about college either when you have kids, but that's another matter. But President Trump has spoken about this. I heard him. The difference between that $6,000 and $13,000 goes to the health insurance companies and to the pharmaceuticals. So if we can get them out of the equation, and instead of focusing on Medicare for all, because that's never going to work in a bipartisan way, but as Annie Andrews said, let's go, and she knows, she's a doctor, let's go after the health insurance companies. And I remember President Trump last December in a speech, because I heard it, like, wow, he knows. He said, I know what to do, and we know what the problem is, but my friends on Wall Street won't like it. That's the issue. And that's what we have to do to fix this.
Colleen, listen. And
Colleen, you're absolutely right.
Maybe you'll be surprised to learn that I don't disagree with you. Listen, I oppose Medicare for all. And I certainly oppose politicians who throw it out as a slogan as if it's the be-all and end-all, but they still can't answer the fundamental question, which is, okay, what will that cost and where are you getting the money for it? That said, here's where my resistance comes in right now. All of the things that you just detailed about what's wrong with where healthcare is right now, I was told 15 years ago that the Affordable Care Act was going to solve. And the fact is the money that's going to the insurance companies right now, and how they're taking such a lion's share of it, and how everything is way overpriced because the insurance companies are getting rich, that's all a product of the Affordable Care Act. They got into the room and helped craft this legislation to give them the power and the money that they have. So if we can transcend that and come up with some solutions that actually fixes it. The problem is, I think, both political entities right now in this country are so entrenched in their support or opposition to the Affordable Care Act that they won't let it go, and they won't actually start, maybe not from scratch, but at least go back several steps and start crafting something that will work for everybody. Because too many people win political office by either trashing the other side or just saying, no, just let the free market. All of it needs to be reset. And I would love to have a better solution, but I also know that those universal health care programs that you're pointing to in Western Europe, yes, it does offer quite a bit, but it's not the be-all and end-all, certainly, because there are a lot of people in England you hear about that have to wait, months and months and months for basic services that we're able to get here. So there's not one panacea.
Yeah, Colleen, and thank you for raising this. You're bipartisan. This is a bipartisan show, and I think you have universal agreement in terms of what you've indicated. Democrats fall back completely on subsidies, right? More and more subsidies so that folks can afford it. Well, it's similar to what we see with college tuition. If you're just taking out loans and making loans more available to folks, then there's no incentive for colleges not to raise tuition, and all that money goes to endowments and things like that. Similar to the insurance executives that are making record profits right now in terms of their earning statements. And there is some good news in terms of the cost of prescription drugs that are coming down. I credit a lot of that with the Inflation Reduction Act and the ability for, during President Biden's term, to actually get in the room and negotiate drug prices for Medicaid and Medicare. That's one of the reasons now Trump is reaping those benefits completely. Obviously, introducing more competition in the market with his Trump RX program and things like that. Anytime that we can, and saying too, and I hope he stands by it, if you're charging folks in Taiwan $2 a pill, you should charge them here $2 a pill, which they don't, or Canada, or Australia. Not just picking on Taiwan. So again, I think if folks, to Larry's point, want to actually get tough on this, but there isn't a lot of political will, unfortunately, because of those entrenched interests. We know the solutions on a lot of this stuff that is common sense. There just is not the political will to do it.
And if I can just tag one more thing there, Colleen, because setting aside the politics of it, just as a normal American who wants to make sure that I have healthcare when I need it and my children have healthcare when they need it. If we can get a solution that takes care of the people who can't afford health care, and yet if I want to, I can get the health care that I want, that I choose, that I'm willing to pay for. There's a reason why Obama sold the Affordable Care Act by saying, if you like your plan, you can keep your plan. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor, because that's fundamental. I don't want to get locked into a system where someone else is making decisions on my behalf, and they're telling me, yeah, you need this care, but we can't give you this care. As long as I always have the choice to go outside of the system, I think we'd be okay. But that's what we need to come up with.
In European countries, like when I lived in the UK, you do have that. It's a hybrid system. So people can have the basic, but they can't take you to the bank, the private companies, because they know that you have a very good, solid grounding. And I mean, again, they have better outcomes. They have less cancer. They focus hugely on preventive care. As soon as children are born, I had kids born in the UK, they are right on you from the beginning about, preventive care, feeding well, eating, exercise, all that kind of stuff. So
we can do all of that without a government-run program too. Let's be real. That doesn't. But you'll remember the NHS when it was first created, and for decades you did not have the choice. You couldn't go outside the system. I think there was a Supreme Court case in the United Kingdom, I want to say 16, 17 years ago, where they finally broke that, and they said, no, if I want to go to a doctor directly, I should be able to do it. And I think Canada is still locked in. So there's got to be somewhere mid-ground.
Thank you so much, Colleen.
Wait, can I just say something, Kevin? Maybe we should have a poster of all American politicians in Congress, which ones with big X's on the ones that are taking money from the pharmaceutical and healthcare industry, so everybody knows, and who is actually doing this, because they're never going to change it. If they're taking money from the donors, they won't go against their donors. So it's simple.
Amen. Amen, Colleen. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Colleen.
Bob, welcome to the conversation.
I wonder what
you shared that great Johnny Carson Dolly GIF earlier. Would love to hear your thoughts and comments.
Johnny Carson had said one time on the Tonight Show, and I think it might have been to her, that he would give a week's pay to peek under her blouse.
I thought it was a year's pay, but a week's pay, yeah.
Maybe it was a year. Well,
Yeah.
keep in mind, Johnny Carson pretty highly paid back in the day too. But
that wasn't nothing.
yeah, that was not nothing. You know, and I grew up in an area where country music, a rural area here in Northern Illinois, country, you know, music was king. We watched Hee-Haw and all that good stuff. But I remember Dolly Parton first with Porter Wagner before she had her incredible solo career. But just
of course, and she wrote "I Will Always Love You" to Porter when she stepped off the show.
Exactly my point. One of the great, best known pop songs of all time, a huge hit later for Whitney Houston, a pop hit twice for Dolly. And it was really something she had written to Porter Wagner on her decision to leave and go off and pursue a solo career. So rest in peace, Dolly Parton, for sure. Guys, just on the political tip, I think it's unanimous with you all on the show. Of course, Mark's in absentia this week. That maybe
on assignment,
that maybe we've never seen a flip so fast as something on data centers. Even here in Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, who signed something, you know, that was giving tax breaks to data centers in 2019, and now is backtracking on that. I live in a small rural area where people are all ginned up over this, even though there isn't a data center even proposing to be built. Somebody had run an ad for some real estate that just said it would be prime data center area, and it raised a huge stink in this area, including somebody getting arrested by going to the county board. Anyway, why has this occurred in your opinion? Is this a foreign influence op, or am I paranoid to think that? And more importantly, what can we do to combat it? Because the reality is we need these data centers. I realize this political cycle, nobody's going to come out and support data centers. But how do we combat this all of a sudden rush where people are just seemingly freaked out over this?
Yeah, Bob, it's a good question. I'll weigh in first, and then I definitely want to hear Larry's thoughts. I think data centers have become a catch-all for all of the fears and anxieties around individual economic situations, right? So gas bills are on the rise, utility bills are on the rise. They see corporate profits taking off for so many of these companies, and it's also so the idea, the economic anxiety is fueling a lot of this. Also, the NIMBY element of all this, not in my backyard, is a constant, catch-all for policies. Okay, you want to build this housing development, you want affordable housing because you want to support the working class. Well, not in my backyard. I don't want those folks close to me. I'm all about public housing, but I don't want it next to me. And I think that's also fueling a lot of that. It's also just a catch-all, easy to understand issue that there isn't a lot of nuance for people, and I think that's driving a lot of the flip that we've seen just over the months and year since they went from massive support, 75% wanting these data centers to fuel job growth, to fuel the economy. We know we need them to compete against China, to now I think record low support in the 30s for actually having it in your community. But I'd love to hear what Larry thinks too.
I agree with a lot of what you just said, and the irony should not be lost on any of us that when these anti-data center folks go out and try to spread the word that they hate data centers, they're doing it with live streams, that are dependent on data centers to be able to handle all of the load that goes along with the live stream, and then they'll go home and they'll watch their favorite shows on Amazon Prime or on Netflix, which requires data centers, or they'll create their leaflet to try to get people to come to the rally against the data center, and they'll use ChatGPT to create the leaflet, which requires data centers. So I think part of this is the industry has to do a little better job of educating people exactly about why we need them and why they are beneficial and why they're important, and frankly, the danger posed by China actually beating us in the AI race right now and being able to utilize AI and sort of dominating the planet on AI protocols. That said, the industry has brought this on themselves, and in many respects, the politicians have brought this on themselves. I can speak specifically from Northern Virginia, which is the ground zero of data centers. We have more data centers in Northern Virginia, right off the Potomac River, than anywhere else in the country on a per capita basis. And they have jammed these things through in suburb areas, rural areas. You move out to a rural area, you do it for a reason. You want to live in an area that has, cow pastures, and you want to see a nice little vista near you. You don't want to be near some urban sprawl and some giant monolithic concrete business park and warehouse. And before you know it, your county supervisors have just approved rezoning of that rural protected area to allow this giant concrete monolith to be built next to you. Not to mention that they have to bring in power lines to energize them. And the next thing you know, a year later, your electricity costs have gone up, and you start blaming the data centers for that too because of the draw that they've done. This has been the most slipshod, ham-handed way to zone and approve the growth and sprawl of these data centers that I've ever seen. And so the backlash is inevitable, and they need to stop. They need to regroup, rethink it, and come up with a better way. I agree we need these data centers, but the way they've done up until now has been absolute horseshit.
There you have it. Bob, thank you so much for the question, for being such a valuable member of the community. Professor Kenny and Maddie, I see you guys. I know we're up against the clock. Promise you we'd love to have you on tomorrow. Making that commitment. Please join us back tomorrow.
And we will always love you, Professor Kenny.
And we will always love you, Bob, and everybody else. We've got some key things that we want to talk about in terms of highlighting some of the things that are out there. Even though Mark is on assignment, there is a new edition of Next Up that came out yesterday. The midterms are here. Yesterday's Next Up, Mark takes you on a roadmap to Election Day. And again, just 10 weeks away. Hard to believe, 69 days out. Plus, Robbie, who, Larry, is also joins him? Robbie?
Starbuck.
All right, we got it now. On corporate America's retreat from DEI, and Drew Holden on press coverage of the Civil War inside the Democratic Party. A great episode of Next Up that you won't want to miss from yesterday. Citizen McCain, Megan, is live at noon today with Texas Senator Ted Cruz. That'll be a great conversation for sure. So join our friend and favorite Megan at noon today for that conversation. Really looking forward to that. And again, we will see you all tomorrow morning. Again, promise you, Professor Kenny, Maddie, for tomorrow. Again, keep the Dolly anecdotes coming. And we'd love to hear more of your stories about Dolly tomorrow as well. But hope everybody has a great day.
Also, Meghan McCain honoring the 8-year loss of her father, the great senator and presidential candidate John McCain, and war hero. And Kevin, time for me to go on assignment.
I know. So I'll be on with the great Eric Erickson, who we love to reference, our favorite Republican guest co-host on the morning meeting. Will join me tomorrow at 9 a.m. An expert on all things Georgia, of course, which I am here now. So I'd love to get his perspectives on that tomorrow. So join us tomorrow at 9 a.m.
I will be back in a couple of weeks, actually. And if I see Mark Halperin out in the field, I will give you a full report. Thank you all.
Can't wait. Thanks, everybody.